The league office is reportedly trying to keep the footage under wraps, but the story has already started spreading. After the Lakers' recent loss to OKC, reports began surfacing that something intense allegedly happened involving Shaquille O'Neal and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander near the locker room tunnel. And if you think that 131-108 blowout was just another regular season game, there are people claiming the real drama started after the final buzzer sounded. According to rumors and eyewitness accounts, what allegedly happened around 15 minutes later became one of the most talked about moments surrounding the league in recent days. This wasn't just post-game frustration or players exchanging words. Security reportedly had to step in, and tensions quickly escalated. The alleged reason? Shaq had apparently grown frustrated with what he viewed as OKC's style of play, especially some of the in-game antics that had been building frustration all night. As the Thunder celebrated their dominant win, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was reportedly making his way toward the locker room when everything suddenly shifted. According to leaked reports, Shaq was standing in the tunnel with his arms crossed, blocking the path toward the locker room entrance. People nearby allegedly noticed the tension immediately, sensing that something serious was about to unfold. Security staff reportedly hesitated, unsure of how to handle a visibly frustrated Shaq in such a heated moment. Then, as Shai approached, the atmosphere changed instantly. Witnesses claimed Shaq leaned in and delivered a cold statement, reportedly saying, "It's disappointing. You're too good to play like that, kid." The comment was interpreted by many as criticism of Shai's playing style, particularly accusations surrounding foul baiting. But according to the rumors, Shai didn't back down. Witnesses claim he responded calmly, allegedly saying something along the lines of, "The game changed. Either adapt or get left behind." That exchange reportedly pushed tensions even higher. Some accounts claim Shaq stepped forward aggressively before coaches, staff, and security rushed in to separate the situation before it escalated any further. Reports suggest multiple people had to intervene as emotions boiled over in the tunnel area. Even after players were escorted away, some insiders claim Shaq remained visibly upset, continuing to voice frustration about what he sees as a growing issue in today's NBA, a game increasingly influenced by foul drawing, theatrics, and officiating trends rather than pure physical competition. The controversy didn't stop there. Additional rumors claim Shaq remained in the tunnel area for quite some time afterward, still visibly frustrated as referees eventually passed through. According to some reports, the atmosphere remained tense, fueling even more speculation online. At the center of all this is a larger debate that has divided basketball fans for years. Has the NBA changed too much, and are modern stars benefiting too heavily from foul calls and officiating trends? Critics often point to players accused of foul baiting, while supporters argue that elite scorers are simply adapting to how today's game is officiated. However, it's important to note that many of the dramatic details surrounding this alleged confrontation remain unverified, and there's no confirmed public evidence proving the event happened exactly as described. Still, the rumors have exploded online, especially among fans already debating Shai's style of play and the way stars are officiated in today's NBA. If the story turns out to be true, it could become one of the most shocking post-game confrontations involving an NBA legend in recent memory.
He had his struggles last year, but there's a ton of GA on him. Now you got to send help. And got passive by Reaves.
Sorry, right, this game.
This wasn't just some random hate edit floating around online. It was a detailed 14-play breakdown focused entirely on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's ability to draw fouls, with critics arguing that many of the clips showed him doing everything possible to sell contact and earn trips to the free throw line. In clip after clip, fans pointed to moments where even minimal contact appeared to result in dramatic reactions, fueling accusations that Shai had mastered the art of foul drawing. At the time, his free throw numbers were drawing major attention, with critics comparing his attempts to entire opposing lineups and questioning whether the officiating was becoming too favorable toward elite scorers. For many frustrated fans, especially Lakers supporters, the issue wasn't just the number of free throws. It was how they were being earned. Critics argued that modern offensive stars have learned how to manipulate defenders into creating contact, sometimes by stopping abruptly, changing angles, or using defenders' momentum against them. One of the biggest complaints surrounding Shai's game is the belief that he has mastered subtle techniques that make defenders appear responsible for contact, even in situations where the reality may be more complicated. Supporters, however, argue that drawing fouls is a skill, not cheating, and that elite players throughout NBA history have found ways to exploit defensive mistakes. That debate is exactly where voices like Shaquille O'Neal have reportedly become frustrated. According to basketball discussions online, Shaq has been critical of what some fans call anti-basketball, a style focused less on physical shot-making and more on creating whistles. The criticism centers on concerns that modern stars are rewarded for selling contact rather than simply finishing through it. However, defenders of today's game argue that players are simply adapting to the rules and taking advantage of how the NBA is officiated in the current era. Some fans have also connected this frustration to broader theories about league favoritism, but claims involving betting manipulation or the league intentionally boosting specific teams remain unverified and should be treated cautiously unless backed by credible evidence. What is true is that conversations around officiating, foul baiting, and star treatment have become increasingly heated across the NBA, especially during high-stakes playoff matchups. Even players around the league have occasionally voiced frustration about foul calls and officiating trends. For example, Jaylen Brown has spoken publicly at times about the physicality of the game and how certain styles of play are rewarded, reflecting a debate that goes far beyond just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or the Thunder. Whether people see it as smart basketball or harmful to the sport largely depends on how they view the evolution of the modern NBA.
We give the benefit to those who necessarily are trying to manipulate the game into their advantage. I just don't think it's basketball. Like, let's just play basketball. All the foul baiting.
So, when respected voices around the league start questioning officiating trends, many fans see it as validation of frustrations that have been building for years. Supporters of Shaq's criticism argue that concerns about foul calls, star treatment, and consistency in officiating are not new, especially during playoff basketball, where games are expected to become more physical. Critics of modern officiating often point to situations where certain stars appear to receive favorable whistles, while others are forced to play through heavier contact. That perception has fueled endless debate around players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and whether elite scorers are simply skilled at drawing fouls or benefiting from inconsistent officiating. According to critics, the 2026 playoff numbers surrounding Shai sparked even more discussion because his trips to the free throw line reportedly increased compared to the regular season. Historically, playoff basketball is often viewed as more physical, with referees allowing more contact and calling fewer fouls. Because of that, some fans found the increase unusual and started questioning whether officiating standards were being applied consistently. Others pushed back, arguing that great players naturally become more aggressive in the playoffs and often earn more free throws because defenses tighten up and force more contact. Some online discussions also focused heavily on referee trends, with fans analyzing officiating crews and claiming certain stars receive more favorable whistles depending on who is working the game. However, claims suggesting referees are intentionally helping a specific team win, or that there are league-wide efforts to protect one franchise, remain speculative and unverified. Strong accusations involving rigged outcomes or coordinated favoritism require solid evidence, and public data alone does not prove intent or manipulation. Beyond defensive foul drawing, frustration around the Thunder reportedly extended to physical defense as well. Critics accused certain OKC defenders of playing overly aggressive basketball that pushed the limits of what officials were allowing. Lakers fans in particular argued that physical contact on one end of the floor seemed to be officiated differently than on the other, increasing tension throughout the series. As emotions escalated, every hard foul, missed whistle, and controversial call became magnified under playoff pressure. That tension reportedly reached a boiling point in one highly emotional game, where frustration from Lakers players became increasingly visible. Moments involving visible reactions from players like Austin Reaves added fuel to conversations about officiating consistency and whether emotions were finally spilling over after weeks of frustration. Known for generally staying composed on the court, Any visible frustration from him quickly became a talking point among fans already debating the fairness of the series.
Last year's NBA Finals. And the Lakers wanted to spend a little extra time with the officials.
Tensions reportedly continued to rise throughout the series, especially after one emotional moment involving Austin Reaves and the officiating crew. According to fan reactions and online discussions, cameras captured Reaves visibly frustrated during an exchange with a game official near midcourt. While some reports claimed the interaction was more intense than what appeared on the broadcast, many of the behind-the-scenes details circulating online remain unverified. What was clear, however, was the growing frustration from Lakers players and fans regarding how certain calls, or non-calls, were being handled during key moments. Critics argued that several plays involving physical contact on Lakers players, particularly drives to the basket, were not receiving the same whistle as similar plays on the other end of the floor. That perception fueled accusations of inconsistent officiating and added to the belief among some fans that the series was not being called evenly. Supporters of the Thunder, meanwhile, argued that aggressive playoff basketball naturally creates frustration and that officiating complaints often increase when teams are losing tough games. Rumors also circulated about the Lakers organization pushing concerns directly to the league office, though specific claims about emergency meetings or formal demands should be treated carefully unless confirmed by reliable reporting. Teams frequently communicate with the NBA about officiating concerns during playoff series, but dramatic descriptions of internal conversations are often amplified online without verification. The frustration reportedly extended to the coaching staff as well. At one post-game press conference, Lakers coach Redick publicly questioned officiating consistency, particularly regarding physicality around the rim. He voiced concerns about how contact was being called and whether standards were being applied equally to both teams, adding fuel to an already heated debate surrounding the series. Like many playoff controversies before it, the discussion quickly turned into a larger argument about star whistles, playoff physicality, and whether modern NBA officiating has become too inconsistent from game to game. For Lakers supporters, moments like these reinforced their belief that the team wasn't getting a fair whistle. For others, it was simply another example of playoff emotions boiling over in a high-pressure series where every possession and every referee decision felt magnified.
Sports betting. So we don't want to start messing and having fans thinking that it's something going on with the integrity of the game. So you got to clean up this flopping nonsense. You have to clean it up.
Redick also raised concerns about how physical contact involving LeBron James was being officiated throughout the series. Critics argued that LeBron appeared to absorb heavy contact on drives to the basket without consistently getting calls, which fueled frustration among Lakers fans who believed officiating standards were uneven. Discussions online focused heavily on whether physical players like LeBron are sometimes officiated differently because of their size and strength, with some arguing that bigger stars often receive fewer whistles despite absorbing significant contact. Supporters of the Lakers pointed to statistics and game footage to argue that LeBron's free throw rate in the series felt unusually low relative to how aggressively he was attacking the rim. Others pushed back, arguing that playoff basketball naturally becomes more physical and that officiating standards often shift compared to the regular season. Like many heated NBA debates, much of the disagreement came down to interpretation rather than clear consensus. Reports also circulated about league discipline following post-game criticism of officiating. Isn't it unusual for coaches, players, or analysts to receive fines after publicly criticizing referees, as the NBA has long enforced policies designed to protect officials and maintain public confidence in game integrity? However, interpreting those fines as proof of wrongdoing or evidence of hidden agendas goes beyond what has been publicly verified. Meanwhile, public conversations about officiating expanded beyond just Lakers circles. Commentators and former players weighed in on the broader issue of consistency, playoff physicality, and whether stars are officiated equally. For example, Kendrick Perkins publicly discussed concerns around officiating and competitive fairness during media appearances, reflecting how intense the debate had become among analysts and fans alike. The center of it all remained a familiar NBA argument, Are controversial whistles simply part of playoff basketball, or are inconsistencies becoming too noticeable for fans and players to ignore? Either way, emotions around the series clearly reached a level where every foul call and every missed one became part of a much larger controversy.
You know, in the wild, right, the most annoying animal is the hyena, in my opinion.
Shaquille O'Neal's frustration, according to many fans and commentators, goes far beyond one game or one controversial whistle. For critics of OKC's style of play, the bigger complaint isn't only about free throws. It's about what they view as inconsistent officiating on both ends of the floor. Some Lakers supporters argued that while Thunder players, especially Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, were getting favorable whistles offensively, OKC defenders were allegedly allowed to play far more physically without the same consequences. That perception fueled growing frustration throughout the series and became a major talking point online. Much of that criticism centered around Luguentz Dort, whose physical defensive style has long divided NBA fans. Supporters view Dort as one of the league's elite perimeter defenders, someone who plays hard, stays physical, and embraces difficult assignments against top scorers. Critics, however, argue that he sometimes pushes the limits of legal defense and benefits from officials allowing more contact. Throughout the season and playoffs, several physical plays involving star players became controversial among fans debating whether tough defense was crossing into reckless play. Claims involving intentional attempts to injure players, league favoritism, or coordinated efforts to help one team win are serious allegations and should be treated carefully unless backed by strong evidence. Physical playoff basketball often creates emotional reactions, especially when stars are involved, and isolated clips can quickly go viral online without always capturing the full context of a game. What one fan sees as dirty, another may see as simply intense, playoff-level defense. The debate also reflects a larger generational divide in basketball. Players and legends from older eras, including people like Shaquille O'Neal, often compare today's NBA to a far more physical period where hard fouls were common and stars regularly played through heavy contact. During Shaq's prime, teams famously used intentional fouling strategies, often called hack-a-Shaq, because stopping him physically was one of the only ways to slow him down. That experience likely shapes how he views modern officiating and why he has been vocal about what he sees as excessive foul drawing or inconsistent whistles, they at the same time. Today's NBA is officiated under a different rule environment, with greater emphasis on freedom of movement, player safety, and protecting offensive players. Supporters of modern stars argue that adapting to those rules is simply smart basketball, not cheating. Critics counter that some players have become too skilled at selling contact, making games feel less authentic to fans who grew up watching older eras. For many people following the Lakers' Thunder controversy, the frustration wasn't only about one whistle or one player. It became symbolic of a larger argument over what basketball is supposed to look like. Is modern officiating helping skill shine, or rewarding manipulation? Is physical defense being unfairly punished, or not punished enough? Those questions are exactly why debates around players like Shai, Dort, and the Thunder became so heated during the playoffs.